Love, self-love, love week, care, self-care, all that kind of stuff. Oh, and by the way, StreamYard just put up something earlier that said that there's an issue with LinkedIn. So I may not be able to see your comments if you're coming through LinkedIn through StreamYard. So just know I'm not ignoring you, but they have some kind of technical glitch. So, um, there's a reason why I call my program the Empowered Action Academy. And one, I believe that we are all empowered. We're all empowered. We just don't always take that empowerment and move it into action. And I know this because this was me. This was me. We get caught up in all of the stuff that everyone else says we are supposed to do, everything that everyone else says we are supposed to be, how you're supposed to show up, what your career is supposed to look like, what degree you're supposed to get, because you're supposed to go to college, you're supposed to go to law school, you're supposed to. And I read an article yesterday about a woman in Essence magazine, who did the same thing. She did all the stuff that she was supposed to do, and she is finally, quit her. She was a doctor in academic medicine, quit her job, ended up getting divorced, and now she's like living her best life. Has her two kids. She's an entrepreneur. She's actually making a difference in healthcare, because healthcare is not that open and friendly to those of us who are people of color, and especially Black people in the U.S. And so it was that following of the supposed tos. And the whole idea of empowered action is that you have a choice. You have a choice. You have a choice in how you show up and when you show up and if you show up. And while it is not easy, it takes courage to do that. One of the best things you can do for you is to decide for you who you are going to be. That is the epitome of self-love. The epitome. And for those in your village, the way they show up in love is to support you, even if they don't understand it. Now, if you're doing something that's going to harm you or someone else, your village needs to call you on that and say, hey, let's rethink this, right? But if it's just where you feel like you need to be, support. Because those big changes also is where you'll find the people who really are in your corner and those who are not. So when I was in corporate, it was just what you were supposed to do. And I started out, my undergrad is in accounting. I started out as an accountant. And I did it, even though I wanted to do a degree in psychology, right? My dad was like, baby, I love you, but you got to get a job. So I did accounting. And it was fine. I was like, okay, I can do this. I'm good at it. And, it's not that hard. I can do it. And so I got my accounting job. And I just remember at the time thinking, you mean we have to do the same thing every month? We have to do these same journal entries. I was so bored. But it was the thing to do, right? So I was taking action, but I hadn't really empowered myself to take the action that I wanted to, because, I needed to get a job, right? I had bills to pay. I needed to support myself. And so I ended up, because this was early 90s, right? So they hired 5 of us new. 5 months later, they're like, we are so sorry. Tenneco Oil and Gas, that no longer exists. We're so sorry. We just can't keep you guys. And ended up going to Texas Instruments. And even there, I was like, when I applied for the job, I said, I'll work in the accounting department, but I don't want to be an accountant. I can't do those journal entries every month. So I ended up going and doing kind of inventory control, which was actually pretty cool. So it was cost accounting. So I got away from the financial stuff, at least initially. And then people left, and I ended up getting dragged back in it. And the whole time I'm thinking, something it just doesn't sit well with me. Now, I already knew I only wanted to go to school. I only wanted to work 3 years maybe before I went back and get my MBA. I knew this coming out. I knew I wanted my MBA. And so I enjoyed the people I met at TI. In fact, Nita reached out the other day, and Inez, and I loved the women that I met, and a really good friend of mine, Renee, I met there, and we've been friends forever. And so I just knew something was not quite right, but there were pieces, right? I got really connected to the operations guy, the operations VP. I got really connected in terms of doing some audit of of our obsolete inventory. So it was much more like process oriented. And so then I went to graduate school and I thought, you know what? Because I'd been taking the CPA and I'm like, I don't, and this is when you could take it in pieces, right? So I took the first part, passed it, got ready to take the second part. I'm like, I just don't want to. And not only that, you're either missing the basketball playoffs or the football playoffs when you're studying for the CPA exam. And I just wasn't cool with that at the time. So I went to grad school and I thought, I'm doing operations international business. I know I want to be functionally fluent in Spanish by the time I leave my graduate school. I had all these plans. Did that, went into audit, internal audit afterwards, which, by the way, if you have kids who aren't really sure where they want to be and they're doing something financial or even something operational, internal audit is a really great good internal audit teams are a really great place to start a career. Why? Because you get to see some of everything. You have to, right? Because it's internal audit. You get to really understand compliance. You get to understand control. You get to understand how the business operates. You get to really build your business muscle. So don't sleep on internal audit, especially if you got a really good internal audit team. So did internal audit, got a chance to do some international travel. And then my dad passed away and I was like, I gotta get out of Michigan. And it was snowing and cold. I couldn't do that. But again, all I knew was that this just wasn't it. I didn't feel empowered to actually take action other than to do something different. And I was still waiting, right? I knew I wanted to leave and something showed up. I got an opportunity and it showed up, right? So the person that I had worked for when I did my internship at this company actually is who brought me to Deloitte. And so I ended up still staying in Michigan, but I went to Deloitte. And I didn't really want to be at a firm. That wasn't where my heart was, because I'm like, at this time, blue suit, white shirt, red tie, get very far. I couldn't, right? But this was different. This was enterprise risk management. And again, I'm now working with 3 people who I met at Deloitte, and they have become really good friends of mine. So, right. So you meet these connections along the way, but I'm just kind of moving, right? I just know something isn't working, so just go do something. And there's value in that, in not getting stuck and just saying, I'm going to go do something else. So we got 27 inches of snow on a Saturday in April. I think it was 1999. And I said, I'm done. Peace out. I can't do this. When I have to dig out my Jeep and I'm fighting the woman who's in my spot, I can't. And so I remember going into my partner and saying, love you, mean it. I got to go. Would love to transfer, but I understand if that is not possible. Again, without knowing it, I had the mindset that said, this is what's non-negotiable for me, right? I'm not staying. What I'd really like is to be able to transfer because that makes it easier for me. But because I know my non-negotiable, if you say no, okay, I just go look for something else, right? So I didn't know what that was at the time. That was moving me more towards empowered action. 27 inches of snow. I'm tired of being cold. This is not what I want to do. I got to get out. I'm going to move, right? I am empowering myself, or I was empowering myself to make a decision that may have been contrary to what everybody else is doing. So I ended up coming to Houston. Then Enron happened, right? And there are people that I met at the firm that I still stay in touch with that I really like. But that whole professional services thing for me, it just wasn't for me at the time. Because again, I got to see Enron, some of the people that I worked with. I just, values disconnect, complete values disconnect. And so again, I just knew that wasn't it. So I had to do something. So I started looking for something else, wound up back in the Midwest, back in the snow, right? Working for a casket company. And which you don't know, how many people do you meet that actually work in the casket companies? But it was really great. And again, have some friends that I know there and have been really great friends for a very, very long time. In fact, one of my most cherished mentors was my boss, who actually got me into HR because he saw me in a meeting. Because again, I went for enterprise risk management. I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, this isn't working. You guys aren't ready. It's not what you want to do. I'm bored. I'm not learning. I'm not contributing. It's time for me to do something else. And this guy saw me in the meetings and said, have you ever thought about HR? And there we have it, right? And so up to that time, I had just been, if somebody offered something and it was different, it got me out of what I was doing. I was just moving. I was taking action, but I wasn't really taking empowered action, which is, what do I want? Who am I? Who am I really? Where am I? What do I want? And what do I have to do? And am I willing to do to get there? Those are the 4 questions. I wasn't asking those. I was just saying, this isn't it. There's got to be something else. There's got to be something else. And so I would wait. I would do some looking and talking to people, but I would wait for an opportunity, right? It's that post and pray, they call it in recruiting, right? You don't actually do anything. You just post it and pray that people apply. That's kind of where I was. I was like, this isn't it. So Lord, please just send something. But I didn't know what it was. I wasn't active. I wasn't empowering myself to take control over what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be. And part of that, women, I'm looking at you, part of that was, how much did I really deeply believe that I had options and that I had skills and capabilities that someone was willing to pay for in my next role? Now, I say that because I know a lot of y'all out there don't want to admit it, but you're feeling the same thing. And that's why it's not empowered action. You're just moving. You're waiting for somebody to tell you it's okay. You're waiting for somebody to give you the offer. You're waiting for somebody to apply for the job. You're waiting. Why are you waiting? Why are you waiting? Now, don't get me wrong. This is a place of no judgment. None. How can I judge you when I got a log in my own eye, right? But here's the thing about empowered action and how that ties to, that self-love. Is in order to take empowered action, you have to really know who you are and what you want. And in order to know who you are and what you want, you got to love you and have enough honor and respect for yourself that you are willing to do the work. That's it. That's it. That you are willing to do the work to figure out what it is you want. And in doing that work, giving yourself grace to say, this is what I want. This is what it's going to take to get there. And I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet because I'm not ready, or I'm not ready yet because I've got other things that are much more priority right now. Family, friends, kids, whatever the thing is, right? I can't do it yet. It's okay to not be able to do it yet. But even that is an empowered action decision. It's a decision based in a total, indisputable love for yourself, a respect for your gifts, and an honor of your gifts. It takes that in order for you to take empowered action. Because often, especially women, we will be in a place where we're like, this isn't it. It doesn't feel right. This is not what I want. It's got to be something else. And when we start feeling that way, the first thing we say is, well, it's me. It must be me. I've kind of lost it. Maybe I just need some more rest. I know I used to be able to communicate. I must have lost my ability to communicate. I've literally had that conversation with myself. It must be me. I know I used to be able to communicate well. What's going on? It's not you. It's not you. It is a situation in which you are placed, whether of your own volition or by someone else's, that is no longer compatible with who you are and what you want. It's situational. Now, don't get me wrong. You need to know you. I've talked about this a lot of times. I know I don't have a poker face, right? I need to know me. And I know that I am patient until I'm not. I know that I have a real ability to bite back and clap back. And very rarely do I do that. Very rarely. I mean, literally, I can probably count that on one hand. I also know that I have a tendency to really listen and get everything on the table, right? Not necessarily slow and precise. That's not what I mean. But I am adamant that we are going to talk about all the stuff before we move forward, because I don't want anybody to come back and say we didn't talk about it, right? I never have to say, I told you so, because see, we talked about that. But that can be irritating for other people. Because I'm like, no, we are not moving until we have this conversation. We are not moving forward until we have it. And when we have it, we're going to document it, we're going to agree, and then I'm moving. Right. And I know this about me. Once we agree, I got so much stuff on my plate, I don't have time to revisit decisions over and over and over again. Right. And that's that training. If you don't have time to do it right the first time, what makes you think you have time to do it over? I do not have time for us to revisit the exact same decision for the next 3 years. Either we go decide or we not. And if we're not, fine, I got other stuff to do. But I know how irritated and frustrated I can get with that, and not everybody moves as fast. One of the people I met at Deloitte is one of the people that helped me really get to this place. And I don't remember if I've told you guys this before. So again, it's about that whole empowered action, and knowing yourself is a key part of that empowered action. And we had a meeting about something. I don't know. It was pretty controversial. And it had been a pretty heated meeting. And he called me in and he's like, hey, we just had this meeting. And he's like, I really love having you on the team. I'm like, great. He said, because you don't have any issue discussing hard topics. It's not a problem for you. I'm like, you're exactly right. And I'm thinking, he's pumping me up. I know how good I am. I'm waiting for my promotion, right? He said, but I thought, uh-oh. He said, you move so fast and your brain moves so fast and you do not have any vested interest in the outcome from the standpoint of your personal worth. You haven't tied into the outcome. You are very clear on being able to compartmentalize that it's the issue that's at hand, not your investment. But everybody else isn't that way. There are people whose total being is tied up in their perspective and their decision and their action that should be taken. And so when you blow through that, you got people that are just like on the fringes, right? You've just slayed people and you didn't even know it. I was devastated. Devastated. Because that wasn't my intent, right? But again, good intent, bad impact. My intent was we had a decision to make. We need to get stuff out on the table. We need to really talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly on that stuff so that we could all be on the same page when we move. That was the intent. But the impact of how I interacted was bad. People felt dismissed. People felt like their ideas weren't good. It's another reason why I always caution people, be very careful about that word you. Especially when you're talking performance reviews or you're doing a post-mortem on a project. Be very careful about you, because that can be accusatory. Focus on the behavior or the action. This is the action or the behavior that I observed, and this was the impact of that behavior on our outcomes. And so that is not a behavior that can continue. You're not making a judgment on them as their character. You're not making a judgment on them as a person. None of that kind of stuff. Because see, that's irrelevant. That's irrelevant. What is relevant is what happened, what the impact was on the outcomes, the desired outcomes. And so by having someone who was a mentor of mine, who cared enough about me to say something, again, not everyone who picks you up and shakes you off is a friend, and not everyone who dumps on you is an enemy. Someone who cared enough about me to pull me aside and pull my coattails and say, hey, look, this is really great. We really need to work on this. I never would have known. I mean, I may have figured it out eventually, but he completely, shortened my trajectory to that level of enlightenment around that particular topic. And because I know that, I am also able in situations to take empowered action about how I'm going to involve people and how I'm going to entertain madness or not, how I'm going to engage with others who have contrary opinions. There's a reason I call the show The Rutledge Perspective, because I believe that you need a multitude of perspectives in order to solidify or shore up your own, or to give you information that says, ooh, that may have been my perspective before, but now I've got after acquired information because I'm a mature adult with intellectual agility. I am willing to change my perspective based on information that I've gotten. That tells me my perspective may have been a little jacked up. Or I take empowered action and say, yeah, I hear you, but this is how I feel. And then I own that. And therein lies the challenge. There are a lot of people who say, yeah, I hear you, but I don't care. We see that all the time. All the time. That's not what I said, or this is what I meant, or all that. That is a lack of accountability. That's not leadership. That's a lack of accountability. But if you care about yourself enough, have enough respect for yourself, and enough pride, and I use that word intentionally, enough pride in the knowledge of your unique capabilities and skills and your genius that you're bringing to the world, you will love yourself enough to do the hard work. And you will love yourself enough to allow information in that challenges you. And you'll also be discerning enough to know when that information is trash and when that information is really something you may not want to hear, but is good for you. Because it's usually going to be some of both of those things. Because not everything you hear is going to align with what you think. It really isn't. And that's okay. But if you're moving into empowered action on this love week, you know yourself better than anybody. And you may be able to lie to other people, but you can't lie to you. And so I'm asking that you really give yourself enough respect and enough support and enough grace to be able to actually spend time figuring out who you are, where you are, what you want, and what it's going to take to get there, and then moving in empowered action. Empowered action. Now, again, sometimes if you're in danger, get out. If you're in danger, move. Sometimes you got to move. There are times when we need to be quick and approximate versus slow and precise. But when you're talking about a big life decision, give yourself the time to evaluate. And then make a plan that has enough kind of wiggle room or flexibility in it where possible, that if you get after acquired information, you can make an adjustment. And because you've done the work and you have enough love and respect for yourself, you can see that adjustment as empowered response as opposed to failure. As an active movement to take new information to change your action, as opposed to a judgment on your capabilities or your ability or your intellectual agility. It's all about perspective, right? Words matter. But you got to start with you. You got to be willing to do the hard work on you. You got to love you enough to do that. And it's not easy. It's just not easy. It is, in fact, it is extremely difficult. And it can be really rewarding. You know, you guys know, I mean, I've been with my therapist forever. We should be best friends, right? By now, except that's not the therapist relationship. I've been with her forever. And I know for a fact that it is one of the reasons why I'm able to be much deeper and deliberate about some of the things that I do. You know, we had a conversation not too long ago about how long should you really be in therapy? And it's a really valid, good question. And I think I talked about this before. But again, giving yourself self-love, you need to evaluate, why are you still there? For me, the relationship has shifted, right? It has become much more of a kind of business coaching kind of thing, right? It is much more deep work. And because I'm a person who really seeks to understand, and it's a challenge, I really want to understand. I want to understand deep before I move. I have this desire to learn and understand. And so that means that it's hard for me when I do my work because I want to understand. Laura, why did you do that? I don't understand why that's so hard. Laura, why is it impossible for you to, insert the thing here, right? That you're beating yourself up, self-flagellation. I just want to do the work to understand. And that is difficult on your own. So you find someone to do that with you. And since we're talking about that, by the way, I'll just make a plug for this too. Please, in this third year of COVID and with all of this stuff going on, if you see something, say something. Check on your people. Great time to do that during Love Week, right? Check on your people. Check on the folks that seem the most okay. Check on them. Because you never know what battle somebody's fighting, right? Check on them. Check on the folks that seem like they never need help, never need support. Check on them. Make sure they need it. And help where you can. Even if that help is, I'm making a phone call. Even if that help is, hey, I need you guys to go make a wellness check on this person because I haven't heard from them in a few days or whatever. Right? Check on your people. Check on your people. That's what villages do. They check on their people. So be sure you're going to check on your people. Okay. We're going to do some shout outs here shortly. As I thought about this show today, and this whole idea of Love Week. And I posted about my paternal grandmother yesterday, who's a music teacher, straightening out the curves in Tucker, Texas. You know, it is a difficult time a lot of times for people to think about love in the context of leadership. So there's self-love that we've been talking about, really knowing yourself and getting to really honor and have grace around who you are and where you are. And that's really important, especially for those of you in corporate. You got to get really strong about who you are, because you cannot place your value. Don't take on the burden of someone else's perspective on who you are and your worth. Just like I'm very deliberate now, because I learned this, right? And I paid attention to this. I'm very deliberate now not to say, pay me what I'm worth. You don't have enough money to pay me what I'm worth. Mm-hmm. What it is pay me for the value of the experience that I'm using to support you, right? You're paying me for the value of my experience, the value of all the stuff that I know that you don't or didn't get, because our experiences are different. But don't pay me what I'm worth, because that also says if you get to decide and pay me what I'm worth, that my worthiness is tied to that price tag. So what happens when I get a new job and the salary isn't the same? What happens if my bonus isn't what I thought it was? What happens if the number isn't right? Does that mean I'm no longer worthy? Does that mean I'm no longer worth it? Does that mean I no longer have value? The answer to all those questions is no. And yet, if you have put your worth, right, and people are putting your value, you're putting your value on what people are paying you, and saying words like, pay me what I'm worth, mind your words, because that's not really what you mean. Pay me for my expertise. Pay me for the value I'm going to bring to you. Pay me for that, but don't pay me what I'm worth, because nobody has a check big enough to pay me what I'm worth, because that's divine. My worthiness is divine. I am worthy because I'm here. What is it that Holly Dowling, when she was here, said? You don't have to be perfect to be priceless. We are all priceless. Mm-hmm. Now, there are people who have a number, right? Like, you can buy my services for a number. There are people who are absolutely money driven for whatever reason. But is that their worthiness? I still don't think so, even in that context. Even in that context, it's not about worth. It is about value. It is about expertise, right? People, as they say, people pay for mastery. That's what they're paying for. That's why artists get paid what they get paid. They have mastered something that I can't do. That's why they get paid. Because they have mastered something that someone else finds value in. The activity, not the person. We ready for shout outs?
Sure.
Yay. Gives me a chance to move around.
All right. We've got Houston in the house in great big numbers. All
Yay.
right. So Kansas City is in the house. Indianapolis is in the house. San Antonio is in the house. Oklahoma City is here. Austin, Texas is here. Chicago is here. Dallas, Fort Worth is here. Pittsburgh is here. New York is here as well. And then we have Finland.
Welcome, y'all.
And double numbers, so that's a wonderful thing from last week. Finland is in the house. Brazil is in the house. Australia is in the house. Germany is in the house. Iran is in the house. France is here. United Kingdom, Lithuania, and Mexico.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you guys for showing me the love this week by showing up to the show. And some of you are showing up for the podcast as well. I mean, I love this global reach. Please, here's what I ask. Send me questions. Send me questions. Send me things you want me to talk about. Just send them to me. Let's get connected. Let's engage. Tell me what's on your mind. And by the way, I'm going to take a quick sidebar here while we're doing shout outs. I've got some big things planned for Women's History Month next month. One of those will be the Rutledge Perspective live conversations on Fireside. So I'm going to be sending you guys more information so you can get on the Fireside app and come chit chat, and it's video and audio, so you'll be able to actually come and engage and let's talk about it. So you're going to meet some women who are in my village next month. You'll be able to meet my amazing villagers, some of them, my amazing villagers next month. So stay tuned for that. I'll start promoting that soon. All right. So I don't know, Jerry, as we're in this love week and talking about that whole idea of empowerment and knowing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you and I kind of talked about that too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And actually making a decision to move.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about you all the time with, the things you're wanting to do with the station and everything too,
Mm-hmm.
making those decisions. How for you does that show up?
What do you mean?
Making those decisions and knowing where you are and who you are.
Age for one, and two, because of longevity, are looking at the history of where I'm at and knowing how I operate outside of here, where it relates to my productions and things of that nature. When God speaks something to me, I don't tarry. I have to move when the window of opportunity. Let me tell you, this is a word for you as well, and for some of these people, because he spoke this to me Sunday. He said, there is a window of opportunity that is going to come for you to move in an uncomfortable way. But if you do this, it's going to open up so many doors. And a lot of times we get the opportunity though, but we don't understand there's a window of opportunity. So there's a timeline.
Yep.
And so when I feel in my spirit that there's a timeline, I get with the powers that be other than me as well. And say, listen, there's a timeline.
We got to
go. I got this at the tone. I got stuff to do now. So when I feel that push or that thrust, and I feel a lot of us, including yourself, feeling that thrust, like you said, this other platform that you're getting ready to do and other things, and you were so not into being visually seen or doing all of that, but now you're feeling that window of opportunity for you to make that thrust. I'm looking at Eva Pope, and it's amazing that she's on here because she's actually works with a funeral home. And you were talking about you were a casket.
Yes, Batesville. Worker. Hopefully y'all use Batesville.
Well, where's that at? That's not here.
Batesville's in Batesville, Indiana. No, they are the largest supplier of caskets, and they only sell to licensed funeral homes.
She asked herself the question, why haven't she moved? Why hasn't she moved?
That's a great question, Eva. And ask it to yourself with kindness and compassion and love. Because sometimes we haven't moved because we've just gotten caught up in the hamster wheel of just doing. You got to stop and pause to move. And so now that you've asked the question, now you have the space to go figure out what the answer to that is.
Is it the fear of the unknown too? Because
some of it, yes. Of course. It's always the enemy we know. Even if we are in pain, it's the enemy we know. That's why people stay in some situations that are painful situations. I mean, even me, when I think about corporate, I was there almost 30 years. And it was painful most of the time. Most of the time it was painful, especially those last few years. And I finally said, you know what, this is ridiculous because I have a choice. I took empowered action. I have a choice. That December, I was like, you know what? I'm not present with my family. I'm not enjoying myself. I am not feeling good. I've gained all this weight. I'm not showing up as me. I've got to take action. I have a choice. I have a choice. And I'm willing to just step out on faith and take it. And I did, and it worked out, right? And so, and it's funny that Jerry talks about, look, the windows of opportunity, because even this platform came out of nowhere. And it's all been built. So again, empowered action, go back and know who you are. It has all been built based on a definitive decision. I decided December 2016 that I was done. And then I told them I'm done. I left in 2017 and started this thing, right? LaurelRutledge.com and LKR Group LLC. It started all this stuff. And then in 2019, I said, I am going to be more visible. I have got to start showing up. If this is what I really want to do, I'm going to be more visible. The radio show, Miss Jerry P. Beasley, showed up. Which talks about that window of opportunity. I am just fortunate that the Lord said, don't sleep on this girl. She got issues. Just give her a chance. She gonna come back. Just give her a chance, right? And here we are. It'll be 2 years next month. And because I've been here every Tuesday, masks on during the pandemic, me and Jerry holding it down. The only time we haven't been here is if there's been an issue. right? Weather or something. But because of that, because of the podcast continuing to go out, getting more people asking me to be on my podcast, right? To be a guest on my podcast. This other thing came up. Someone referred me to this other platform.
Mm. You know, I almost used your word earlier. You talked about the God winks.
Yes.
And I was talking to that young lady that was here, and I said, those are God winks because when you're ready, God really will send your escorts to take you to the next step. And so when that lady says, why not haven't I moved? Because we're afraid to go, and then we're thinking we're by ourselves. But I really believe he sends us escorts to lead us, because you said you got here because it was Adrian that brought you God winks.
Yeah, a good friend of mine referred me to Adrian. Adrian brought me here, and then I met you, and it's just, you know, all of these things connect. There is a plan. There's a plan. And so even when I think about this new platform, my first, like, I was really excited about it. And then when I actually talked to them about it, I was like, oh, I don't know. I can't do, I don't. That old narrative came up, right? Oh, I can't do this. Because they talk about it like shows. It's a show. What about your show? Now, I talk about the radio show all the time, but there was something about this context of calling this a show that freaked me out. It freaked me out. I'm like, wait, what? What do you mean a show? You mean I got a plan for myself? I can't, right? That C word. I cannot. So I was talking to Jenny, and she's like, you do realize you've been on the radio for almost 2 years, like every week by yourself. You do realize you've been interviewing people. You do realize. I'm like, oh yeah. Right? So about to let a window of opportunity pass me by. And I literally, it's so funny that you had that on Sunday, because I literally had a conversation with myself over the weekend and said, you know what, Laurel, just do it afraid. Do it afraid. You know, what's the worst that can happen? People don't show up and talk to you. They will eventually. Then you just get to chit chat on the radio. I mean, you know, on the thing. Just do it. Just do it. What's the worst thing that can happen? They say, we really don't want you back. Okay, well, you didn't have it before you got it.
Come on.
So, you know.
Laura, you said earlier, you said it's not just a good thing just to know your worth. You know, people want your experience and all of that. And I was telling somebody, I have no problem. Back in the day, I used to. I fumbled when people say, how much does the charge? Especially when they come to it. Just a little 15-minute comedy is good. It's not a little 15 minutes for me, because I got to go through a whole thing to do it.
All the prep.
So at the end of the day, I said, I have no problem now to tell you what my price is, because I know the experience that you're looking for. You're looking for more than just me to get up there to do it. You're looking for my marketing experience. You're looking for all that. But anyway, when you said that, it just hit me now when we're talking about when you talk about the steps that you had to take. You had to take being on the radio first, because you were totally
nothing
for it.
No.
But if you don't write stuff down,
okay,
then you won't know what to check off. Like, this is one of my list dreams. This is one of my aspirations. Because a lot of us forget that he's already answered us. Because we didn't write it down. And we're haphazardly. And you said that now is no more time to just do things haphazardly. And so when these windows of opportunity come, it's really a warning that you got to come on with it. You've been trained. You've been ready.
Just go.
But it is that thought that something you've been doing every day or every Tuesday. It just happened to me. They would ask me to write for some people. I didn't do it. But I write the Holy Ghost drive-by every day. So the enemy will always, or our own self will make us think we don't have what it takes to do what we've been doing.
And it's important to take that time too, because, you know, I had nearly a meltdown yesterday, right? Not because of Valentine's Day, but there is so much stuff that still needs to be done, right? So much stuff that still needs, and so I was caught up in that tornado of the things, all the things that need to get done. And I'm like, but is that really revenue generating? If it's not revenue generating, why am I doing it? What? I mean, all the things, right? I was a hot mess. And I finally had to say, again, therapy, right? I finally had to say, okay, look, one, just breathe. And two, go back and evaluate and say, yes, some of this stuff is not stuff that is revenue generating, but it is putting you in a place that once it's done, it is done. So just do it, because it is fundamental and foundational to where you're going. You're not trying to make everything perfect. That's not what you're doing. Because sometimes we can get caught up in that perfection, right? It's got to be this color pink and this color blue and this color, you know, it's got to have this kind of words. And we need to make sure things evolve with us, but it's not about perfection. So I was very clear that it wasn't about perfection for me, but I was getting caught up in the comfortable. It's really comfortable to stay behind the scenes. And I was frustrated that I kept finding myself in the comfortable, knowing I needed to be in the uncomfortable. Not only knowing, but wanting to be in the uncomfortable. I just couldn't see my way through the trees out of the crap into where I was supposed to be. I mean, hot mess, y'all. So I give this stuff to you, one, because I always said I was going to be honest, right, and transparent. And this is not perfection, what you're seeing. That's not who I am. This is not my highlight reel, right? This is my behind the scenes. But here's the thing. When I stopped and gave myself a minute, I always go back and I say, okay, Laurel, let's go back and look at the message. Because, all that stuff gets in your head too. Is this really what I'm supposed to be seeing? Is this just something coming at me that's really not, right? I'm like, devil, get behind me. We're not doing that, right? Am I really hearing the right message? Is it really a God wink, or is it just something showing up? All that crazy. You can make yourself crazy too, trying to discern if the messages you're hearing are real. You can make yourself nuts, right? And so when I got that, I just paused and I went all the way back. Like, you know what? When it was time for me to get out of Ohio the last time, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And a way was made and I got back home, right? I got back home and I needed to be home. And then when it was like last leg, I got my next role and ended up in this role that I was in right before I started my business, right? And all of these things, every time it's like on the precipice for me, something happens. And when I left, it was done in a way that I could support myself for a while to build this business. And then when I said, you know what, Laurel, stop it. Just what you've got to do is get visible. Because you don't mind. And here's the thing. I don't mind being on stages, right? Because words matter. I don't mind being in front of people, all that kind of stuff. It is just that constant energy, use to be out there that's difficult for me. So I have to think about it differently and prepare my mind. Because I love doing this and I love spending time with you guys. I just have to think, I have to put it in perspective because it's not about me. If I think about me, that leads to visibility, which leads to let me just be behind the scenes because it's not about me. If I'm really in service, it's about you and showing up for you. And so when I looked back and I paused, all of those, every time there's been something that needed to work, something showed up every single time. So when I talked about being visible, the radio show showed up. And then I think it was last year at one point, I'm like, you know what? This is what I really like. I really want to do group programs because I think there's such value in that common experience. I will still do one-on-one and I'll still work with my corporate clients selectively because I think that's important too. And I like doing that. But this group thing of really seeing women move into empowered action, that's it. I've never felt since I've been doing the business, this is the first time these three, this action, vision, alignment, that it's like, it rolls off the tongue. It's simple, it's clean, it's clear. Action, vision, alignment, vision, action. Alignment, vision, action. Ava, alignment, vision, action. So clean, so clear. And so then I was like, you know what? Laurel, before you sleep on this opportunity that just opened, remember in 2021 when you were like, maybe I need to think more about this whole personality thing. Like just really stepping into even more so the radio show, the podcast, guesting on more things, speaking on more stages. That's what I really want to do. And being a quote unquote talent. Because remember, I've said before, I didn't grow up, doing plays and I didn't do that. That wasn't me. And I was in band and orchestra, but I never had this thing that you see with people that I want to be on the stage. That was not me. So when people talk about the show, like on Firestarter, they talk about talent, being a talent, who's the talent, it freaks me out because I've got in my mind what that means. But again, I went back and I looked and I said, now here's what you said out loud and here's what you wrote down and this is what showed up. What's your problem? What's your problem? You said you wanted it. It has now been provided. What you gonna do? What you're gonna do is you're gonna prepare and move into empowered action. Proper prior planning prevents poor performance. I have been preparing for this without knowing it for 2 years. I have been preparing for this without knowing it for 2 years. Actually, I've been preparing for this without knowing it for a number of years, for decades probably, and didn't know it. But when we know it, knowing it is great, but then what are you going to do about it? So I want you to care enough about yourself, respect yourself enough, love yourself enough to have the hard conversations with yourself, to surround yourself with people who are also going to tell you the truth, who are going to pump you up and be your cheerleader, but also going to be your butt kicker when you need it. Mm-hmm. And I want you to move in empowered action. And again, I get it. Sometimes we just got to do something. We just know what's working now isn't working. You just got to do something. Do that. But find a time to stop. And when you ask yourself the question, to stop and decide and determine and listen to the answer. And then ask yourself why.
You always talk about the head trash. While you were talking, this came to me because I was telling somebody one day, I said, please don't just go do something you hear me saying, because a lot of times I'm thinking out loud. I'm trying to figure it out as I go. Processing out loud. And that's what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And most people won't even do that much because we get so paralyzed. Right. You're not going to know it all at one time. You're going to have to figure it out sometime as you go. The Bible says, as they went, they were healed. Right. But if you stand at one place, you'll never know. And as I'm listening to you, working things out, really the idea really doesn't come until you start talking it out like that. And then you're like, ding. Right. Right. And until you give yourself space to do that. Yeah. Because we get so busy being busy, you don't know what's passing you by because you're so busy being busy. Mm. What are you missing because you are finding glory in the busyness? It's a badge of honor to be busy. Busy doing what? For what purpose? Sometimes the busiest you can be is doing nothing and thinking. Busy up here. Get busy in your mind. Get busy being a lifelong learner. Get busy understanding who you are, where you are, what you want, and what it's going to take and what you're willing to do to get there. Be busy doing that. Because if you get clear on I'm telling you, if you get clear on those 4 questions, everything else will fall into place. And even when it feels like it doesn't fit, you will at least be able to see where it may have taught you something that you needed for the thing you're doing. When you get clear on those things, you know what your destination is, so things become detours and not derailers. Or you're at least able to acknowledge and see a derailer before it derails you. But you got to love yourself enough to ask those hard questions and surround yourself with people who aren't just going to be yes people. Because true leaders find people around them who have contrary opinions and perspectives. That's what true leaders do. True leaders aren't looking for yes people. When you get surrounded by yes people, you get what we got surrounding our society right now. Real leaders want people who are going to challenge their perspective, because a high tide raises all boats. You hire for your gaps. You hire for the stuff you don't know. And you don't get your ego all caught up in the fact that you don't know it. Because guess what? You can teach them something and they can teach you something. And the whole team is better for it. But you have got to know you enough and love you enough to not get caught up in, well, I didn't know that, so I can't hire somebody who knows more than me. That's a choice. That's a choice. I can't even remember the conversation I was having with somebody the other day, and they're like, and they said, their boss is like, yeah, can't put that. We can't talk about that because then people will think you're in charge and not me. But see, that's about you, not about me. Right? Because see, what other people think about that is none of my business. What other people think about me is none of my business. Not fundamentally. Now, that's different than making sure that you understand what the perspective is if you're in a corporate setting and you're looking at what jobs you're going to get put on and all that kind of stuff. You do need to pay attention to what your reputation is, right? You got to manage your brand because you are your brand. Every time you show up, every place you go, you're your brand. So you do want to manage your brand. And part of that also is, like I said, knowing who you are, loving yourself enough to have the hard conversations with you and allow people to have hard conversations with you.
to talk about the stuff that's not easy or pleasant or pretty. Because in that is where we learn. And that is where we grow. And that is where we find those pieces that really move us to our genius. But we have to be, one, we have to be willing to move. We have to be willing to move. We have to be willing to ask ourselves the questions. We have to be willing to do some things afraid. And again, you can prepare, right? I'm not saying be reckless. Don't be reckless. You want to at least prepare as much as you can, or at least understand what risk you're taking and take it with full knowledge that, oh, this might be kind of risky, but I see this is risk I'm willing to take because the other end I think is worth it. But give yourself enough grace and enough love and enough support and enough respect to at least have that conversation with yourself. To at least say, hey, here's what I'm going to do. And here's why. Here's the choice I'm making because I believe in the why. I know the why and I believe in that why. All right. Okay, everybody. Thank y'all. This just made my day. I love Tuesdays because I get to spend it with you guys. Texas, go out and vote early. Across the U.S., go out and vote early if your polls are open. California, Nebraska, New York, Wisconsin, you guys have elections going on today. Texas, the last day to get your mail-in ballot, request your mail-in ballot is Friday. The primary day, voting day is on Tuesday, March the 1st. Go vote.
I wanted to mention, Cynthia
Yes.
said this earlier. She said, here it goes, one for y'all. Mine came back. You were talking about voting yesterday. Yes. So guess what? The ballot was damaged in the mail, so they rejected it, saying it was tampered with.
See? Y'all pay attention. Go. If you're going to do a mail-in ballot, go get it early so you can plan for this. Thank you, Dr. Cynthia, because there is some madness going on. There's some madness going on. So think about that. Her ballot got damaged in the mail. They say it's been tampered with.
Yeah.
Come on now. That's not true. So get ready. Get ready. Let's do this. Let's do this. All right, y'all. Have a fantastic rest of your week. Thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you next week. Bye.